The lights did not blink. They did not streak. They moved slowly over Arizona like something huge was passing overhead without making a sound. Some people saw a giant V-shaped object. Others saw a row of bright lights hovering near Phoenix. And later, the official explanation would split the night in two. One event was aircraft, the other was flares. But thousands of witnesses did not remember it that cleanly. They remembered something enormous, something silent, something that crossed the sky and left behind one question. How could so many people watch the same night and still disagree about what was actually there? March 13th, 1997. A clear Thursday night over the Southwest. The reports stretched across roughly 300 miles, from Nevada through Phoenix and toward Tucson. That distance matters. This was not one person staring at a porch light. It was drivers, families, pilots, people standing in backyards, parking lots, and streets. The first reports came before 8 p.m. A large V-shaped object was seen near Henderson, Nevada. Then, more sightings followed in Arizona, Paulden, Prescott Valley, Glendale, Scottsdale, Phoenix. The object seemed to be moving southeast, toward the city, toward people who had no reason to be looking for anything strange. Tim Lay and his family first saw the lights when they were far away. At first, they looked separate, 5 lights in an arc. Then they seemed to come closer. The spaces between them widened. The shape became an upside-down V. That is where the story changes. The Lay family said they could make out structure between the lights. Not just points in the sky, a dark shape, a massive carpenter's square form, with the light set into it. They said it passed overhead, slow, silent, low enough to feel wrong. Some witnesses placed it only hundreds of feet above them. Others saw lights higher up, partially hidden by thin clouds. That difference would matter later, because not everyone was seeing the same thing. Or at least, that became the official answer. Actor Kurt Russell was flying near Phoenix that night. He later said he reported unidentified lights to air traffic control. At the time, he did not connect himself to the famous case. Years later, he realized he may have been one of the pilots who called it in. Then, around 10 p.m., Phoenix saw another display. A line of brilliant lights appeared over the city. They seemed to hover, and then slowly vanish, one by one. This was the footage most people remember. The row of glowing orbs. The image that turned the night into legend. The problem is the night has 2 faces. The first was moving. The second appeared almost stationary. The first was described as a massive V-shaped craft. The second looked like lights hanging near the horizon. The military explanation works best on the second. Flares dropped over the Barry Goldwater Range could appear to hover from Phoenix. As they fell behind the Sierra Estrella Mountains, they would seem to wink out one by one. But flares do not explain every witness the same way. They do not explain why some people saw a dark body connecting the lights. They do not explain the reports of something passing directly overhead. Unless those witnesses connected separate aircraft lights into one shape, which is possible and still strange. One witness did not see a giant craft. Amateur astronomer Mitch Stanley looked through a telescope. He said the lights were individual airplanes flying in formation. That should settle it, but it did not. Because thousands of other people were not using telescopes. They were standing under a dark sky, watching lights move in a formation so large their brains may have filled in the missing shape. Or maybe they saw something the telescope did not. That is the uncomfortable part. A mystery can survive even when a reasonable answer exists, especially when the answer arrives late. After the sightings, Arizona Governor Fife Symington held a press conference. He joked that they had found who was responsible. Then an aide appeared in an alien costume. The room laughed. The witnesses did not. Years later, Symington said he had seen the object himself. He called it bigger than anything he had ever seen. He said he had stayed quiet because he did not want to panic people. That reversal changed the case. Not because a governor cannot be mistaken. Governors are people. People misread the sky all the time. But the joke came first. The admission came later. That left a bad taste. The military explanation eventually pointed to Operation Snowbird, and A-10 aircraft from Air National Guard training flights were in the region that night. One formation could account for the earlier moving lights. Another flight dropped illumination flares near the Barry Goldwater Range around the time of the later Phoenix lights. A Maryland Air National Guard pilot later confirmed his squadron had dropped flares that night. For skeptics, that closes the file. Aircraft, flares, distance, darkness, human perception, no spacecraft required. But for witnesses who saw a silent object pass over their homes, the explanation felt like it was aimed at someone else's sighting. There are really three versions of the Phoenix lights. The first is simple. Military aircraft and flares created the whole event. The second is messier. The later lights were flares, but the earlier V-shaped object remains less certain. The third is the one that made the case famous. A massive, unknown craft crossed Arizona in silence. While the flare explanation covered only the footage people kept replaying, the hard truth is this. The flare explanation is strong for the 10 p.m. lights. The aircraft explanation is plausible for the moving formation. But plausible is not the same as emotionally satisfying, especially when witnesses remember scale, silence, a body blocking out stars, and the feeling that something huge moved above them. The Phoenix lights did not leave wreckage. They did not leave radar proof that everyone accepts. They left video, witnesses, a military explanation, and a night that refuses to become one clean story. Maybe the answer is ordinary. Jets in formation, flares behind mountains, a city looking up at exactly the wrong moment. But if that is all it was, one question still remains. Why did so many people look into the same Arizona sky and come away convinced they had seen something much larger than lights?